So welcome, welcome. We're going to do a quick live again, very quick. I have lots of beautiful things to do, as I'm sure you do too. And I want to welcome you to this live or to this pre-recording education. So Richard Branson has always been my go-to muse to kind of address the concept of no education. But I'm actually going to share with you who actually first really inspired me to understanding that no education wasn't the end all of your passions. Because like Joseph Campbell, I think he had a master's and then eventually PhD and went on to write The Hero with a Thousand Faces, to teach the kind of classes he wanted to. And we're used to that. My father was born in 1923 with an eighth grade education, which was not unusual in those days, actually. Education was not something that, in the ghettos of the Northeast, they were not exactly going to give you a ticket to the golden train, right? But what was interesting is that he was surrounded by people who were all poor, and they came in different races and religious beliefs. And so he didn't see it as a deficit. He just saw it as a money was the lack of money was just because of what was going on in the country. So again, the poverty level during the because he was born during the Great Depression. And so he learned from his grandmother, who was raising him, because she was selling bathtub gin and shit like that. She was a hustler. She was like, yeah, we're not fucking starving. Fuck these people. So she was selling some shit, okay? If he had an eighth grade education, and the reason why he had it was nefarious, but she definitely didn't have any education, but she had balls. So he ended up self-educating. Reading was mandatory in the house, reading out loud. I'll never forget him reading the Amsterdam News at the kitchen table and him telling me this as a kid. So he got to read about Lawrence of Arabia, and he got to read about Gandhi and things of that nature, and the movement of people who wanted to claim their sovereignty over the British colonialism system that had oppressed them for hundreds of years. So he was reading about, impossible feats. And let's not forget, Gandhi had a PhD, if I'm correct. Correct me if I'm wrong. But anyway, and by the time he went into World War II in Europe, he saw different ways of being and being treated a different way. And he saw a different lifestyle. And he saw that there were other people out there who weren't educated. Because again, people weren't fucking going to the universities to the level that Europeans do today. But anyway, long story short, he was clocking in the late 60s and early 70s, hundreds of thousands of dollars. He had an attitude that was, you can't fuck up. Even if you fuck up, it's just a temporary fuck up. So he was doing things that were really coloring outside the lines. I'm not going to lie. He was doing some pretty fucking wild shit. Moving in and out of Africa. But the thing about him, and this is, I think, what is the nucleus of success in power, is that one, he didn't give a shit what people thought of him. Not his grandmother, not his uncle and cousins and whatever. No one. In fact, anyone who fucking stood in his way, he cut out. I mean, he just wouldn't call him. And he went for his passions, and he got in the movie business in Italy, and he became kind of a well-known personality in the European stage, where a lot of Americans were coming to him for, advice on what to do if you go to Africa. What do you do if you do this or do that? So he might have not had the kind of confidence that someone with a master's or PhD had, but he knew that he had original ideas that people hadn't thought of. And sometimes coming up with ideas that no one's thought of, or an approach to the same conversation, is probably more important than anything. I'm trying to remember the name of the millionaire who found Troy. So Troy is part of the story of the Odyssey, the great poem called the Odyssey by Homer. And in the Odyssey, Troy is discussed. It's a 40-year war, something like that. Long story short, no one believes that Troy existed until this millionaire. I think it was a German millionaire who was like into just archaeology, decided, fuck it, I'm going to go look for it because everyone thought it was a mess, and he fucking found it, and it's been carbon dated. He had absolutely no training, none in archaeology. He did it because it was his passion. So when people are like looking to do things, right, and they feel like, well, I'm not educated, I don't have the training, well, I got to kind of redirect you to the fact that Plato didn't have a PhD. And I brought this up before in our group. Plato didn't have PhD at all. The Bronte sisters, who wrote books that are still studied in university, did not have a PhD or a master's, but they wrote. And they wrote from a container of almost naivete. When you read Wuthering Heights, and you realize that the woman who wrote that book, how could she know this kind of passion and pain at the same time with the collision? When you read Jane Eyre, how? When you read Charles Dickens and you read about Oliver Twist, because he was in the workhouse. He was in the poorhouse when he was 13 because his father got sick. So we know he had actually front row experiences to what poorhouses were like and was exposed to children during his time working at the poorhouse because, again, his father was sick for a year. And then finally things got back into place, but he never forgot it and wrote about it. So we can understand experience in writing about it. Creative nonfiction, creative fiction, But when you have people like my father, or like the Bronte sisters, or like Richard Branson, and Richard Branson was dyslexic, and I think he's dysgraphic, which means he can't read and he can't write. I kid you not. In fact, Tom Cruise has the same issue. And what most of these people do is they develop photographic memory, right? Which is very interesting because some kids on the spectrum of Asperger's do the same thing. They don't remember the street name. They photograph the whole entire fucking block. For example, this is a very, small example, but let's go back. So Richard Branson is dyslexic and dysgraphic. And in those days, corporal punishment was allowed in school. They could beat the fuck out of you. And they did. And you have to look at this kid and go, wait, hang on. So they're shaming you. They're throwing you on the back of the fucking class. You're laughed at. You're teased. And there's a fire within you that still wants to have your own business. What are you, crazy? Right? Would be the attitude. And yet that's exactly what he did. He says that during the Vietnam War, it would have been in the 60s when the Americans were involved, when the French had left. He said that he decided, you know what, I'm not good at school. He had been called stupid multiple times and beaten by the headmaster, and decided that he wanted to protest the war. And he could do more of service being out of school. And so he dropped out of school. He's a dropout. And he started a magazine called The Student, I believe, and then started taking a mail order, setting up a mail order system for music, like records, mailing it out. And before he knew it, he's got a fucking airline. He's got a whole, I remember Virgin Records. I remember the actual Virgin Records stores. He's accomplished amazing things. And there was a spark in him that no one could beat out of him. And that's something you've got to look for muses that you can look up to. Yeah, he's a billionaire. He's worth something like over $2 billion. And you have to ask yourself, like, am I really using this excuse that I don't have the proper education to write or to create or to have a heart-centered business, that I'm originating a new approach, right? I'll give you an example. I was talking to a client who does hair. She weaves hair, right? I go, and there's a lot of competition in hair extensions, right? Which personally freaks me the fuck out. I would never fucking extend my hair with anybody's hair. This is me, okay? And I'll tell you why. Because I think back on the book Les Misérables by Victor Hugo, where, I forgot her name actually, fuck. But one of the main protagonists in the book cuts her hair to sell it, to send the money for her daughter's care, right? And so when people sell their hair, right, there's despair, there's a need, there's a lack of energy, right? Obviously, right? And who knows, they might be even taking the hair for people who have passed away, let's be honest. We don't know, right? We don't fucking know the origin of this situation. So I told this person who was doing this as a living, I said, why don't you do videos of you saging the fucking hair? Like literally doing a ritual of cleaning the hair's energy to neutralize it. And that will put you up in front. Like people will go, what the fuck? I never thought of doing that. Oh my God. Yes. So how many Hanks, or I don't know how they sell it, like bundle, like I don't pay attention to this shit. But anyway, let's say bundles. How many bundles do you want? Well, I want 3 bundles. You know, I'm gonna do this. I want this amount, 3. Great. I'll do a ceremony. I'll sage it. I know the color. Be there, and it'll be ready and purified and neutralized. And if you, I told her, if you did this in videos, people would go, my God, I'm going to her. And so it's originating ideas that are so compelling and so like fucking maybe even cuckoo to most people that people will come to you because they've never heard of that angle before. And the angle isn't an angle to hustle anyone. It's a heart-centered concern. You're like, there's a problem. How do I fix it? And so you don't need a PhD for that. Do you understand? You don't need to be educated in the classical way. I remember watching my father reading like 3 books a week, 3 or 4 books a week at the time, and just moving from one book to another because being a Gemini, you know, his mind was voracious. He quoted Shakespeare and Voltaire, okay? He was absolutely self-educated. And he was one of the most compelling storytellers, one of the most compelling people, not only myself, but other people ever met. Because there was a confidence. And where does that confidence come from? When you look at Richard Branson, he's confident. And he's not confident because he became a billionaire because they were beating the shit out of him. He was confident in spite of the abuse and the name calling and the bullying. So what does that tell me? And I want to share that with you. What it tells me is that the outside environment either is going to haunt you and dissuade you from doing anything with your life, and you're going to believe him, and you're going to and your monkey mind will take over the rest of that looping energy of self-defeating dialogue, inner dialogue, or you're going to hear people telling you you're a loser, right? And while you walk confidently with head held high, fucking going about your business of winning. It's walking through fire. It's the baptism of fire. And so as long as you know that you're coming from a heart-centered space, as long as you know there's a problem and I can fix it, or there's a problem that I don't feel people are really, addressing that issue in the way I would like to address that issue, then you're good to go. One of the reasons why I started my TikTok account, just so you know, was because I had been listening to Twin Flame coaches, and I've mentioned them many times, Mel Brand, Remy, and some other people that I who are no longer in the game, but they were really helpful in 2014, 2015, and they were really brilliant and no nonsense bullshit, right? I love them. Twin Flame 1111, Cassidy, okay, love her to this day, love her. She has saved probably millions of people's sanity and lives. Okay. Does she have an education? I don't think so. I remember reading, doing one of her guided meditations. I only bought one. And it was $45 at the time, and it lasted 11 minutes. That was it. I swear to God. And it wasn't anything to write home about. It wasn't like, oh my God, my mind is blown. But this is something that I started understanding about energy work and energy work with oneself. So she became a catalyst in reaffirming in me, that understanding of even what appears to be benign has massive power to move energies and especially blocks. You get what I'm saying? Now, was she educated? No. And the reason why I went ahead and started my videos back in, I think, 2022 or something, or 2021, was because I was listening to bullshit and parroting. And I was like, this is really irritating the fuck. I'm like, I gotta do this. And I started one video at a time. And I was like, this is really irritating the fuck. I'm like, I gotta do this. And I started one video at a time because I realized how many people were harming themselves how many people were feeling and going crazy, like literally going into the dark night of the soul and not coming back. They weren't coming back, okay? And I knew that if I could propel people to tell their story as they were living it, it could change the bullshit that was being used to grab people's money who were at their most vulnerable. And that there was power in truth telling. There was powerful in raw talk. And that this could actually shift people's perception. And what you'll notice is that a lot of people are starting to create platforms and they've been reading a lot for me, probably 10 years preparing to eventually come out of the gate. And they're giving people a Reader's Digest of some very intense esoteric information about the nature of ascension, the nature of the 1%, and the blocks that have been used on us to keep us down. So the main critical thing that all of these people I've just described share, right, is that in spite of the outside world telling them they were losers, right, they never allowed their monkey mind to believe it. And the difference between people who actually never make it or they have like what they call imposter syndrome is they actually believe. It's almost an arrogant, it's a negative arrogance. Let me explain. It's a negative self-importance. If you actually believe you're fucking that brilliant, then yeah, you should have imposter syndrome. If you sit into a sacred space with yourself, realizing that none of the things you're saying is yours, number one. Number two, you're downloading direct from spirit or your guides or your higher self or all combined. There's a light team working with you. And you're opening your channel. You're opening your throat chakra. You're confident in that it's not you. It's this other force that's literally grabbing you by the shoulder to make you open, alive, or to create content. Like 2 days ago, I started doing this thing of doing 60-second videos on the twin flame journey. And it's becoming so much successful because it's what people can absorb. And sometimes you got to figure out, how do I make people listen so that they don't feel like they're going crazy? Because the problem with the attention span is you got about 20 seconds, really. I'm not kidding. The days of you got a 2-minute elevator pitch you got to have ready is wrong. It's no longer 2 minutes. You're lucky if you can get them in 20 or 30 seconds. That's how crazy the attention span is, due to the fact that the average human being doesn't meditate. Do you get me? So when you decide to originate something, where you decide to be an actor or a voice narrator or a painter or whatever, right? Whatever it is, writing books, whatever. You've got to get out of your own way. And to be honest with you, the most important thing you can do is getting out of your own way. And getting out of your own way is probably the hardest thing you'll ever master. Why? Well, because the 1% has created an infrastructure that is near impossible to hack out of. I talked about it on a live yesterday about be the lighthouse people need to see, because people are taking their lives. Okay, they're like, fuck this, I'm out. And I explain details of why. So if you know that you can give people another way to see, and the concept of that isn't, because people are good at saying, you know how many books are out there? How many people write books and they never make it? The point is, if you write a book to make money, you're fucked. You've got to write a book, for example, that keeps you up at night, and that is going to keep people compelled to continue reading the book. And so what you create has to be heart-centered. Joseph Campbell came up with Follow Your Bliss. And it's not like he didn't know what he was talking about. Because at the time he was in his 20s out of college, and he knew that I think he went to Sarah, he started teaching at Sarah Lawrence, I believe. I mean, correct me if I'm wrong. But he wanted to originate new concepts on how to approach mythology, philosophy, and archetypes. That was his thing. And he allowed himself to be broke and starving to eventually become the man he became. He couldn't do it any other way. And so what you have to do is really follow your passion, follow your bliss, and not worry about, well, I'm not educated, imposter syndrome, what about other people? The process of being genuine in the way you express your knowledge, your downloads, or even the downloads that you're being used as a proxy. Let's be honest. You're the voice piece to light beings. And that's if you're really, like, don't bullshit people. They'll fucking read it. They'll know you're full of shit. Okay? If you actually make it up that you're downloading when you're not. When you're actually prepared a whole thing and you're reading it and you think no one can tell. But yeah, you can tell. The voice doesn't have the movement, the sure-footedness that one who is reading a prepared statement or a prepared lesson. You know what I'm saying? Eckhart Tolle said it better, statement or a prepared lesson. You know what I'm saying? Eckhart Tolle said it best. To him or zero. And he says it in Practicing the Power Now. He says, sometimes there was no one in the fucking room and I would keep talking. Sometimes there was one or two or three. Now there are hundreds, thousands who are waiting in line, right? But what was interesting is that he also talked about his pauses. He said, I used to get prepared in my speeches or my talks. And he said, and sometimes you'll hear me pause. And it's not because I'm pausing, because I'm pausing to see what next is going to come through. I have no idea what's coming after that. And people giggled. But that's exactly how it works. When you're really in the zone, when you're really in your passions, when you're really in your truth and you're in heart-centered service and you're talking, don't prepare. Get an idea of what you want. But don't prepare a live. This is why I can't do lives. And people ask me, well, when do you do every Thursday too? I can't. That's not how I work. That's not how most of us work. The light beings will grab me and go do a live on that. I go, okay, I'll do it right now. That's how it is. You either catch me or you don't, but it's pre-recorded. And you have to go with the flow of how you're directed by the powers that surround you, your light beings that are constantly with you, that inspire you to act. And the reason why people don't do it, okay? And the reason why people don't have divine trust in spirits and the universe and all of the other realms and realities and dimensions is because the monkey mind comes in and shuts the whole fucking game down. Who the fuck do you think you are? You're nobody. You don't know shit. And it starts just wrapping you up in a snowball of self-loathing. And now, before you know it, you're frozen into nothingness. You're not doing shit. You're not accomplishing shit. Now, the strength of being able to move forward is a double-edged sword. I'm not going to lie. Because once you get into the habit of doing this, people will die and you should be grieving and you won't take the time because you're driven by passions. You're driven by these light beings. And sometimes, I mean, people they don't realize you fucking need a break. That you are in a human container, okay? You don't have insane amount of energies that can go on with untapped without eating, drinking, showering, and sleeping. In particular, sleeping, right? They don't kind of realize it sometimes. I think they forget. I swear to God they do. And this is where you have to connect to your gut and go, look, I need you to take care of me, because sometimes I will run myself raw. I will squeeze out myself on both ends, and then my adrenal glands will just boom, and I'll collapse. And help me find, and guess what? They'll help you find methods, the right minerals, the right things for your body. They'll guide you to a fast, things of that nature, right? They'll guide you to rest. There'll be silence, and you'll start panicking, going, oh my God, maybe this business idea isn't such a good idea because now there's silence. Whenever there's silence, know this, they're guiding you for rest. They're realizing, because you're going to be like desperate, crying, whatever, and they're going to guide you to a stop. And then you have to go into your meditation to listen to what they want to say to you and how they want to guide you to their highest good. But unless you have a daily practice where you're connecting with your truest passions, right, you're going to have imposter syndrome. And really, I had it too. Like in my 20s and 30s, I had my imposter syndrome. And then I had this brilliant idea And I thought it was brilliant. And I went, wait, I'm not that fucking smart. Like, I'm smart, don't get me wrong, but I'm not that fucking brilliant. And so I realized, once I made a decision that what was happening was downloads and it had nothing to do with me, like, yeah, I'm smart, but not that fucking smart on some of the things I would share, like some of the, and being able to take words and string them together to create evocative, emotional images for people to sink into, to go, yeah, that's my story. That was not me. It was, and it is light beings that really control the traffic of downloads and or the subject that you're going to talk about. Suddenly out of nowhere, you're like, oh my God, and you're feverish. And that is your passion-driven self. And there's no reason to feel as if you're an imposter. One of the reasons why the imposter syndrome is so prevalent is that, and it's sad too, because it's kind of like all the assholes are arrogant and getting all these, attention on the content that they're parroting. A lot of them are parroting a lot of shit I heard fucking 20 years ago. I'm like, oh God, please. But the irony of ironies, those who think they can't and they feel like they're imposters, they're actually the ones that should be speaking. They're actually the ones that have deep, deep ancient wisdom that is rumbling in the cavern of their heart chakra. And they're not allowing to release itself into the world. And because imposter syndrome is a healthy moment of saying, am I in my integrity or am I in my ego? But then you call on your guides to say, I release my throat chakra to the following archangels, to the following light beings. I release my heart, my root, all of my chakras to you. And you go one by one to the chakras and you call on these powerful light beings and you ask them, please use me as a conduit, as a proxy to your messages. And it should go very well. But at that point, don't rely on notes, because you will stumble, you will stutter, and you will fall on your face. Rely on what is being guided for you and trust that you're coming from a place of integrity and love. And that's all you need to really know. And the rest will come. It will just come. Again and again, you'll have aha moments guided to books. Like this morning, I was trying to find the documentary called Eat the Sun. And Eat the Sun turns out to be a documentary on somebody who's trying to, the documentary, the director is trying to slam this concept of not needing to eat, using energy of the sun. And I remembered, and this is a documentary that came out in 2011, right? And there's a shyster supposedly in the movie, okay, that really is eating. He's full of shit. But I remember this guy, this little Chinese man, brown skin, very dark, nutty brown, almost. It's like, I don't even know if he could have been Tibetan, he could have been, but I think he was Chinese, if I recall. I'm trying to remember. I think he was. And he had the most amazing eyes. They were blue with a blue ring, like gray ice blue, very rare. And I asked him, I was 18. I asked him, how did your eyes get that color? That's amazing. Because I look at the sun. And I would watch him every morning when the sun rose. Because I'd be out there on the beach. As soon as the sun rose, before it even fucking started crusting, I'd be like in the beach. And I would watch him on the pier staring at the sun as it rose. So it wasn't like this was a new thing for me. I'd actually met someone who was doing it on the daily. And by the way, he was eating. But there was something powerful about it. And there was something that reminded me of what the Egyptians probably understood about the healing power of the sun. I mean, put anything dirty out into the sun and we'll bleach it white, okay? It will clean it. Right now, there are people, scientists, here we go again with that one, who are trying to control the sun under nefarious means. But, hiding it behind the concept of, we're just trying to control nature and weather and temperature and all that bullshit. They've been fucking with the sun for a long time, because when you look at the sun, I remember looking at the sun and doing those kinds of exercise of laying in the sun and connecting with the sun and feeling the sun, putting my root chakra into the sun. And many ancient wisdoms, or attracted to ancient wisdoms, or having people put in front of me who understood these powers at a very young age, because it was ancient wisdom that were being reclaimed, lost across the ages, through the many incarnations that many of us had through orthodox religions and oppressions. Again, remember, Richard Branson can't read or write, and for his efforts in school, he's being beaten. So that kind of trauma isn't something that we haven't experienced, all of us in some aspect. But the main important thing to starting a heart center business, or to going through the process of allowing yourself to fail, to fall on your face, to make mistakes, to fuck up, to forget, and to still keep going, the main power that you are going to have to master is the power to control your monkey mind. While as you're walking, imagine, and this is what they're showing me, you're walking, going down this aisle, right? And there are people on either side berating you, calling you names, throwing things at you. What does that look like? Sounds like Jesus on the cross, carrying the cross, right? And became one of the most riveting and important souls on the planet for over 2,000 years. His monkey mind never doubted. Okay? He had a flash of it the night before, but the monkey mind didn't make him run. So as long as what you feel is real, as long as what you feel is true, and if you feel like you can throw your hat in the ring of the spiritual dialogue of ascension, to be a different voice in the realms of what's going on with a lot of fucking shysters out there in the New Age community. Okay, there are a lot of assholes out there. I mean, I'm talking about assholes. I just had an incredible conversation with a woman who is taking her power back in the ascension dialogue. She's in a twin flame relationship. And she spoke to me of these people who work with very famous spiritual influencers, okay? And how they acted in her house, leaving trash, fucking up her frying pans, or her expensive pans, and acting, I mean, she was paying them and they were treating her like she was the servant. That's not high vibration, my friends. Don't be impressed by people's status. Being impressed by how they act, what they say, how they act, how they treat people that mean nothing to them, can't bring them into any level of power or notoriety. Okay? So that puts you on an even playing field. And the only person you have to convince isn't me. Really, you really don't. I mean, I've had people, I've had people say things like, I had a particular person say publicly that they had gone through every aspect of the twin flame journey, and I say that with love, and a lot of love. And people, we tend to say things out of our asses sometimes, and that's I've done it. Trust me, I've done it myself. But I had to call her out and say, no. I haven't gone through every aspect. You haven't gone through none of us have gone through every aspect of the twin flame journey. It's impossible in one incarnation. It's impossible. Why is that true? Well, because if you've never lived with your twin flame, you've never gone through that. If you've never had a child with your twin flame, you've never gone through that. If you've never had your twin flame die in your arms, you've never gone through that. How can you say such a thing? And so it's important that you allow yourself to have a couple dark holidays in your circle. And this is the advice I'll tell you, where you can bounce off what you're saying, especially if you've decided that you're going to become a spiritual content creator / influencer in that realm for real purity of intention, okay? Not for fucking clout, but to actually help people so they don't fucking kill themselves. I'm going to be very straight up. This is a dangerous realm that we walk in. Once you start taking clients on that realm, you're fucking responsible for them. If they're not feeling right, you pick up the fucking phone, you talk to them for free. You don't charge. So once you decide that you're going to make this leap, You got to realize what it's going to take. Okay. And you need Doc Holidays that call you on your shit. Oh no, Tony, you're fucking up. You're right. I am. Fuck. Damn it. And you repair it. But when you start your business, or when you start your content, which will probably evolve into a coaching business or what have you, make sure that you come from a place of the highest integrity and keep checking in with yourself. Am I okay? Am I doing well? And there are things that you might regret, and you regret, you repair, you move on, right? And you try to do the best you can. As long as that's the intention, you're going to be fine. As long as that's the intention. But if you do anything that feeds your ego, this is why I reject. I was telling this client last night, I was saying, listen, let's not feed the ego with like you're the chosen one and my gifts. My gifts? No. You've got skill sets that were handed to you with trust by the universe, and they're not your gifts. They're skill sets. You weren't chosen. We're volunteers. We are actually, and I've said this in multiple of my lives. And why do I reject these terms? I cringe when I hear people say my gifts. I fucking cringe. I'm like, it's like nails on a chalkboard. Because it's not how that works. There's skill sets that anybody can master. And that's the truth. So that means they're not a gift, are they? Because anyone can have it. And the problem is that people don't truly believe that they have the skill sets, the ability, and they're right. Why? Well, because of their monkey mind has allowed to run amok in their minds, in their heads. And so because of that, even though they have those skill sets, we all have a fucking pineal gland, my friend. So that means that you can actually activate it. You can. I almost lost my mind 2.5 years ago, where a major influencer in the spiritual community said that someone had opened her third eye. Wait, hang on. Oh, are they shitting for you too and eating for you? I mean, come on. Sorry, I have to be vulgar, because that's the level of dumb that we're dealing with in the spiritual community. And we have to be careful. And so the more of us that can be raw and real and authentic and from a place of heart-centered power and passion, and we're here to help as many people as we can. And yes, some of us, we earn our living doing this, and there's no shame to that, and no one should shame it. There's earning a living, and there's becoming a multi-millionaire and showing off your fucking car, your new bathroom that you're remodeling. Yeah, that's not spiritual work. That's you're a hustler. You're a hustler because you're showing how you've done this, that, and the other. You're not a leader. You're not helping. You're not healing. You're gathering as much money as you can from unsuspected, vulnerable people. For real. Okay? And there's a difference. And the problem with people is they don't seem to know the difference. Because I'll give you an example. Yeah, I'm slamming them because I should. Because they've destroyed people's lives. Twin Flame Universe still has clients. They should be a bleep on the screen. It should have been fucking done. Because these kinds of charlatans give other people the idea that, wait, I can be a guru. I remember my twin. I'll never forget this. This guy was dealing DRUG in let's just say one of the islands. Okay, I'm not going to say too much about that. But anyway, he was, and I'll tell you specifically where he was, because you'll never know, you'll never meet him, you'll never know his name. He's probably not even there anymore. But anyway, and him and his friend were visiting Northern California. And this guy was a hustler, a player. He was a piece of shit. Right? But somehow he ended up in Northern California, and people were surrounding him, and he was now a guru. And so he was a guru, and he had his mullahs and his Buddha bun and, and tan and the open shirt and talking all this soft voice because I'm so soft, I'm so within, I'm so calm, my nervous system, I'm connected to the great mandalas of that kind of shit. And suddenly he spots my twin, and he fucking, he literally freezes, like deer in the head. Oh fuck, I'm gonna be called out. And my twin's eyes lock with his, and my twin puts his hands into the namaste and bows his head in obeisance and says, Guru. And the guy's face looked like 1,000 pounds of weight, like he had just taken a shower, like everything, his whole face is, like a relaxed, they're out there, okay? They're hustlers. And they're using spirituality no different than people taking Christianity and becoming millionaires with private jets. It is no different. And for some reason, people have this insane idea that because we're, it's spiritual, it's new age, it's, this is why I've put a massive arm's distance between me and new age concepts and movements and going into the ancient wisdom, system of consciousness, because it is infinite, it is abundant, and it is beautiful. It is beautiful and worth so much. This is my second live that I'm restricted because of what I'm saying. But anyway, so only 18-year-olds and above can actually watch it now, because let's not educate these kids. Let's just let them become victims of charlatans like what I've just described. But anyway, moving on. So that's, if you're not in that consciousness, this is my point, circling back to imposter syndrome. If you're not doing it in that consciousness, then you are fine. But be honest. Are you ready? And that's another, are you ready? My son's been working with me on tarot cards, okay, for over 5 or 6 years. He's still, he's offering it, but not really. He's not really like trying to like get clients on that. His clients are more psychological and shamanic, okay? But he's not really reading tarot for people. Why? Because he doesn't feel like he knows enough. And the kid reads from me, okay? And he reads really well. But he's still not ready to go public. I've seen people get tarot cards and within 60 days open an Etsy shop and start reading. That's bullshit. I'm sorry, that is bullshit. Okay, oh, well, it could be ancient. No. Yeah, there's ancient memory that needs to be refined. And the refinement should take a year or two at the minimum. At the minimum. And you should be reading for free for people in the public. I used to read for free when I was a kid. For a long, almost 20 years. I'd be at the metaphysical bookstore. I'd be playing with tarot card samples. Usually they had samples in those days. I don't know if they still do it. But I'd sit and throw for myself, and I'd have a person coming up saying, hey, do you mind reading for me? And I go, oh, yeah, let's do it. And that's how I started, okay? So I was able to expose myself to a lot, and then I went into what they call street tarot, which is I worked for a 1-800 number, and that really refined the way I read. So for example, okay, so you got to be honest, okay? You can't just, and tarot reading is something that you have back into the ancient psychic powers, is something from when you were first made, and you're starting to recall as your third eye, all your chakras are being lit up and are balanced. And are they always balanced when you're reading? No. But as long as you're saging, as long as you've got your candle and you're saging your cards, as long as you're saging yourself, as long as your attention is pure, your readings are going to be excellent or very good and spot on. And I can't tell you how many people have told me who didn't tell me that, or third party, and I could see it. I could see it. I go, is there one of you's married to someone else? There's a third party situation, and I know it. And then they'll chuckle and go, oh yeah, it's me, I'm married, or they're married or whatever. So my point to you is, be honest though about what you're going to put out. Okay, be honest. If you don't think you're ready, but you're ready to talk, then talk. Talk. Don't coach. Talk. If you haven't exposed yourself fully to yourself, there are people who are in the closet for many things, and it's not what you think. In the closet meaning they've not talked about within themselves some of the things they're still holding on to in levels of their own shame. And yes, it could be their sexuality. It could be trauma from the past. It could be having been molested and not talking about it. And I don't mean talking about it in detail. I'm saying, yeah, I've been molested. When I was a kid, that was my foundational beginnings on the root chakra being brutalized, okay? There's nothing wrong with sharing that with a client, because then the client can relax and realize, oh, this person understands this. I'm safe to talk about this. But if a person is denying if you want to be a spiritual coach or whatever, and you can't even fucking face your own shit on that level, yeah, you probably shouldn't be fucking out there coaching people, because at that point it's hypocrisy. And at that point you're no better than the Buddha button wearing, mala wearing, false prophet guru. Okay? And so you have to be honest. And the minute you become radically honest with yourself, which I loved. Let's go back to Richard Branson. So he's about 17, he's about 16 years old. He decides to drop school. Why? He dropped school not to start a business, but to protest the Vietnam War. Heart-centered passion. He went, fuck this. I'm not doing shit in the school. They don't like me. They're beating the fuck out of me. Let me get out. Let me do something that I really believe in. Let me help people. Let me help with this injustice. Let me help promote that injustice and make people fucking stop this injustice. And because he did something that was promoted in himself by his heart, he was like, the injustice drove him to leave the school and to choose, let me go protest on the streets. It radicalized him in such a level that it brought him to this incredible, brilliant idea of creating a newsletter. A newsletter called A Student? For someone who's dyslexic and dysgraphic? What the fuck's going on? So he must have had help. And so don't be afraid to ask for help. And then suddenly he's doing a mail order on music. And before you know it, he's got Virgin Records, Virgin Airlines, and we know the story, right? So sometimes the universe isn't going to hand you a paycheck for your passions. And the thing about passions is you would do it for free. When I wrote Recall, I didn't expect anything. And I didn't expect it to do anything at all. When I did Songs of Solomon, the breast cancer book, right? I definitely didn't expect, because I had an agent, and I'll give you an example. And the agent told me the publishers in New York love it, the publishers in the UK love it, but they don't know what to do with it. They said it's a niche within a niche. And so when I self-published, when I got the money from Louise Hay, right, the Hay Foundation, right, and I talk about it in one of my lives, I said, I'm putting it out for women who can find it. God bless them. If they need it, it's there. If not, I've never made a dime off that book. Never. Okay? So it's there for people. Sometimes the beginnings of your apprenticeship with the universe in promoting and pursuing your passions, okay, are going to be for no financial reward. None. And the irony with Songs of Solomon is I was interviewed, I had articles printed, I was even, one of my pieces, which was really intense, was on the cover of a magazine in Los Angeles, a well-known magazine. And, it didn't get the movement, but it did expose it to the right people. And I can't tell you how many women with breast cancer came and somehow found me, contacted me, and said, you have no idea how this helped me. So in the beginnings of pursuing your passions, of allowing your fires to come out, to be exposed, you're not doing it for financial reward. If it comes, that's fantastic. But that's not the premise of why you're doing it. Similar to what Richard Branson, and then he fell into money. It's the same with Michael Singer, The Untethered Soul, which we talked about in our book club. And it was the same. He didn't do anything for money. He just wanted that monkey mind to shut the fuck up so he could have peace. And in his pursuit of that, opportunities came to him. Hence the surrender experiment. When his monkey mind said no, he'd say yes. He'd go against what his monkey mind wanted him to do, which was to keep himself limited. He wanted to be limited, right? Leave me the fuck alone. I just want to meditate. Meanwhile, somebody would be banging on his door going, look, we love your fucking house that you built. Could you build me a house just like it? Oh, fuck no, I don't want to do that. And he'd go, damn it, okay, I'll say yes. And it turned into coding, medical coding, which is in the Smithsonian Institute. And the man's a billionaire, is my point. But he never pursued money. He pursued his own passions. And for him, his main concern was, how do I find my peace? I have a client that I've had for a long time, which I've decided no longer to work with because of the way he talks to me in terms of, and it's just not worth it for me. Protect your peace. Yeah, sometimes, in fact, when I started taking clientele, right, years ago, one of the reasons and one of the things I do is to have a chat, with a potential client to see, am I good for them? Are they good for me, and whatever. And so this client that I've had for a long time, it's time to say goodbye, because that's not how you cannot allow anyone to, harm your peace. Now, I've taken clients that are very, very difficult. Don't get me wrong. When I mean difficult, they're going through massive depression. I work with clients like that. Absolutely. Because what we have to do is learn how to figure out what is hurting you, really hurting you. Like, what is it that you won't talk about? Like, I have a client that, was never seen by her parents. I remember, and I've heard that with many women from different parts of the world. Like, one woman told me the story of the boat. They were in the Sudan. Okay, she's half Palestinian, half Sudanese. And her father was an ambassador. Okay, I forgot which country, but anyway, suffice it to, anyway, they're on a boat. She is the middle child. She's got two brothers, and the boat flips open, and they don't save her first. They save the boys. She was saved last. And that marked her. So I work with clients all over the world from different cultures and backgrounds who deal with that kind of fucking trauma. Like, I'm not important. Like, if I perish right now, no one's gonna, they're gonna cry a little, but they'll be okay. Because as long as the boys are saved, we're dealing with that. And trauma is like that. And I love working with clients. So when I mean difficult, I don't mean difficult in those kinds of traumas or traumas of self-hate. That can be fixed. I mean clients who decide that you are going to be their punching bag for a session. Don't fucking do it. Protect your peace. Protect your peace. Put your foot to ass and say no. Finish this session professionally and tell them, so there are things that you're going to have the balls, you're going to have to get the balls to say, yeah, no. You may need the money, right? That's the fear that is going to take over you. You may say, I need the money. And then you'll realize, I need my peace more than I need the money. And when you make these self-loving decisions, the universe provides. I swear to God, it never failed. It's crazy. It never failed. The other thing is when you are dealing with a lot of energies from other people, you need to sage. You need to sage your house. You need to sage yourself. You need to sage the perimeters of your house. You need to change, shift, purify energies if you're going to do this. Some of the older ones that I see who are spiritual psychics, tarot readers, or what have you, or just spiritual coaches, if you will, I noticed that they'll do something very interesting, is that they'll have a bowl of copal or sage burning, so the smoke goes in front of them across the screen to neutralize their face as they're talking through the camera between them and the audience looking at them. So that it's almost like a purification, a barrier, a force field that protects them from any weird energies, because you are going to deal with people that have, for real, mental disorders. Okay? Mental illness is a word I can't stand because it throws everyone in the same bag and it's unfair. Depression is not mental illness. But there are people who have disorders that you can't help and you shouldn't help. You should back away and say, listen, you need a really good therapist, because these people, without shaming them, of course, but you got to be careful. You can't fucking say yes because you need the money. Don't fucking do that. Don't ever do that. You'll be in massive karmic loop at that point. You need to gently push them into the direction of professional help, because some of them have the levels of disorders you're not going to be, not even on a psychic level, be able to help them. Because what's happening with their disorder is the monkey mind is fully present. There's nothing else going on there. In other words, you can't hack into it. You don't have enough bandwidth or time to do it. And that's sad. That's really, really sad. So disorder of the mind, and that's what happens when the monkey mind takes completely over, becomes a parasitical energy. And I have other very non-politically correct ideas about what happens to people in that loop through the medical and pharma industry, like on my own thing. Like if I was capable, I would take people with those kinds of disorders with the right staff, the right support, to see if the shamanistic right wouldn't be the one that fucking recalibrates them back to being grounded in their bodies and grounded and reconnecting and becoming maybe the shamans they're supposed to be and they weren't allowed to be. Does that make sense? But those kinds of disorders, be honest, you can't fucking do it. You don't have the time. Meaning you don't have the kind of time to give them a safe container. That would be something you would have to do in a forest, in the jungles, and I'm going to say it, and it would be something that's very not politically correct to say on this live. But it would be something that would maybe recalibrate them. I've heard just too many great stories about people having massive depression and taking heroic doses, for example, massively. And we're talking about scary doses. And boom, something cracked open and they were right as rain after the experience. So I have a lot of ideas about that. But be honest about what you're able to do. If greed sets in because of fear of lack, you better back away from a client. And because you can't recoup that kind of karmic faux pas, because it's not a faux pas, it's a massive fuck up. And this is something that I think, this is why I hesitate. I was talking to a friend going, I'm just going to do tarot readings in Calandria, right? And I hesitate to do that because of this issue, you know? And some of the things that I'm kind of looking at is something I'm personally looking at for my own path. But I look at, I caution people who think that, you know, not connecting with your reader, your advisor, your psychic is a good first step. I don't understand people who, you know, shell out $150 or $175 and they never talk to their reader before or advisor before they book the session. I don't understand that. You know what I'm saying? You personally, as a content creator, an influencer in the spiritual community, or as a coach, should really want to do a pre-talk with a person to see where they're at and to see if you're a match, if the vibration feels right. And if it doesn't, it doesn't. It's okay. You can let that fish go. Let it slide out of your hand with gratitude. And be very generous with that person. Give them advice. Why not? Give them a book. Why not? A title of a book or a guided meditation you've created. Why not? But let them go. Just let them go. So part of the imposter syndrome can be completely, recalibrated and reset where it no longer is a problem when you come from a place of generous integrity and you are really here not to make as much money as possible. There's nothing wrong, okay, that you might end up being, go into $100 million crowd, okay? I'm never going to shame people on that because I think it's bullshit to shame people. There's a millionaire right now who's actually he's just built 50 tiny homes. Exactly what I've been talking about 3-4 months ago, 2 years ago, I've been talking about that. And I guess people like us have been talking about it, right? All over the world in our own languages, right? And here's this millionaire. I got to find this. I reposted it. Who just did 50 and he wants to do another 100 tiny homes for people who are homeless. That's what this money's for. It's not to hoard. I talk about that a lot. So ultimately, what I want you to know is that the imposter syndrome is something that you can overcome. And if you overcome it, you'll be fine. But if you continue, it's weird, they're giving me something to do with, this is so retarded. Sorry, oh my God, I might get slammed out of the thing again. I'm sorry. They're asking me to verify these little objects with strings, and I have no idea what they want me to verify. None. Anyway, listen, I'm going to go. Here we go with TikTok's little games. But anyway, sending you much love on your journey. I'm going to go. Namaste, be well. Take care. And I'll talk to you on the next one. If you missed the live, I'm unable to verify, so I'm out. All right. Namaste, be well. Take care.
L W E H B